Hello, everyone, and welcome to an episode we never thought was gonna come. 2 years back, it was just like, is this movie ever gonna goddamn land? But welcome, one and all, to Bat Minute's review of The Batman. It's me, Niall McGowan, one of the hosts.
We should call it The Bat Minute, like the web address.
Yeah, The Bat Minute.
I'm your other host, John Parker.
That's like every time because I keep from editing. I keep hearing you say specifically the Bat Minute in that exact way. So whenever I mention the movie to people, I'm always like, yeah, the Bat Minute.
Well, I don't know, when you read the web address, if you go The Bat Minute,
Yeah.
it doesn't sound right, does it? It sounds weird. You have to say The Bat Minute, because we are the one, the only, the original. Any imitators can get in the dirt.
But one of those things, though, of like, if you go trace when this movie was but like a dream, go back to like the beginning of Batman in '89. There's episodes of us talking about like how great it is when they call him the Batman and stuff. And now they made a movie where they call him the Batman. So, well, they always call him the Batman in the movies, but like, they actually call it, the title of it is specifically that. So,
but then 90% of this movie, other than on the Riddler's notes, they don't really call him the Batman. Let me get this out of the way. The one thing I don't like, spoiler alert, people, I adore this movie. The one thing I didn't like was everybody kept calling him Vengeance.
I actually like the Vengeance.
It was funny
nickname.
the first 5 times, but after like 200 times of Selena saying, it's like, come on, I get it.
I think it's because I think it's emphasized. So when the guy when the Riddler drawn at the end. Oh, by the way, should say to everyone too, this is our spoiler review. We're talking about it all.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
This ain't like if you don't want any spoilers and you're panicking now, it's really great. Go and see it. Like that's the official review from me. So.
I recommend it. Go see it. We're going to talk about everything. What we can remember, because let's also get this out of the way. It's not like a review like we've sat down and mused over the movie. Like, we've just seen the movie, basically.
It's one of those ones, too. It's just like, we'll never do this minute by minute, but it's like, we could go in depth. We could do a breakdown of this, because there's so much stuff in it that's like, well, I know what that's from, and I know what they're doing with this, and like, oh, that was interesting in the background and stuff. So
you say we're not going to do it minute by minute. Let's see, Niall. Let's see. Especially because this film, I felt, really tied in to our other Patreon episodes.
Oh, of course, yes. There's very, very heavy influences.
Yeah.
From The Long Halloween's outright plot points, like expressed. Like, it's like, this is a thing that happened in the continuity of this universe. You're like, that's from The Long Halloween.
Yeah.
So.
It felt the most like the comics we're doing, I think, than any other Batman movie I've seen.
Well, before we get into I'm gonna spoil it for people. Most of this review is just gonna be gushing, I think. Really,
yeah.
Should set off the caveat, because I've seen a lot of, you go online and you wonder why half the time. But I will say up front that I'm aware. I'm sure we're both aware. There's very heavy Nolan-y vibes to this movie, and it's continuing in that realistic vein for the most part.
Yeah.
So like, well, this is kind of what Chris Nolan would do. And I will also say, too, I keep seeing people who've been on the show as well, which is the more disappointing thing, of them going, another Batman film. And it's like, I know there's loads of them. And I wish that the friggin' Snyderverse had been better, so it could have continued and we wouldn't have had to reboot it, again. But at the same time, it's like, there's so many Harry Potter things out in the world.
Yeah, and I saw a trailer for the new one at the start of this movie.
In the front of this movie, there's a trailer for Fantastic Beasts 3. And, like, I'm not into Harry Potter, and I've managed to avoid conversations about it my entire life. Like, no one brings it up to me. And I watch the movies by choice, but no one forces them upon me. If you're fed up with Batman, just don't watch the movie.
Yeah.
And if people try to talk to you about it, just go, I'm not interested, and just walk on,
Well, and also, let me just say that something I found very refreshing, and I think I've brought up on the show before, is that, I mean, technically this is a reboot, but it didn't feel like they're rebooting it. It just felt like, here's an adventure from the Batman character that you know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
it was
very
just
much so.
like, right, we're into it. You know Batman is. You get all this, right? Cool. Let's rock.
Oh, yeah. That's the... That was one of my favorite. Okay, so like those caveats out of the way, like, it's I'm trying to put out that internet meme of clasping someone's lips and going, "Let people enjoy things. Like, just let me enjoy this movie coming out."
But at the same
Without being like,
time,
"No, there's so many of them." It's like, who cares? You don't have to watch them. Just leave me alone.
that's the thing. At the same time, if you don't want to watch it, that's fine. That's your business. That's cool. You do you.
Like, well, the first person I talked to actually after I got out of it was I got home and my friend Alice, who I've not seen in ages. Weird enough, she's in one of the Harry Potter movies. Actually, she was an extra in Hogwarts during the second one, I believe.
Oh my god.
But yeah, when I got back to the house, she was visiting because she's been like she's like diabetic and stuff, so she was properly shielding from COVID. She was really, really not seeing anybody for the longest time, and I was just like, "Oh yeah, back from the Batman," but going on all with the stuff, and she's like, "Yeah, I've not seen many of the Batman. The only Batman I know is Adam West. Like, and she's the same age as us. Like, she's like our age, but she's like, yeah, because that was repeated at 5 p.m. when I was a kid, so I watched that." And
yeah, but at the very least,
the...
people tend to either go, "I've seen the Keaton one" or "I've seen the Bale one."
Yeah, and I was just like, she's like, "No, I never watched the Keaton ones, and the Bale ones looked a bit too depressing for me." So
I mean, they are. That's not wrong.
Yeah. But yeah, so those caveats out of the way. Yeah, I absolutely love this. I think this was really, and again, I'm a soft sell for Batman stuff, so it was just really like, yeah, great. They could just show up, but they nailed it. So I will actually go on now, and maybe over time I'll be like, why did I say that? But walking out of it, I was like, I think Robert Pattinson might be it. He might be like, it's not the best Batman movie. But I think he might be the best on-screen, like the best live-action on-screen version of the character.
I think the same. I thought the same thing. I mean, I'm not saying definitely, because obviously I love Michael Keaton. He's our boy. But I think Pattinson has nailed the character from the comics that especially the ones we've been doing. It's better than anyone else. Sorry, Christian Bale. I think he's better.
It's the thing. It's a very specific type of Bruce Wayne. He's going for the year 2. That long Halloween Dark Victory era.
Yeah.
And everything about it is like, as much as it was like, oh, this is a bit Nolan-y and it's very gritty, realistic, more than any of the other films, particularly more than the Nolan films, as I was watching, I was like, this is directly from the comics. Yeah. This is like watching the comics.
But without just copying panels and things like Watchmen did.
Yeah. But it was so like, and every things he was doing, and then it was the simplest thing that they did to make it feel like that too, which I wasn't expecting going in, was just like, oh, they give him a voiceover. That's like the first Batman movie, the first live-action Batman movie. Although I think they even took it out of the animated version of Dark Knight Returns, where that's like a very seminal part of the graphic novel is like, oh yeah, Bruce's thought boxes.
Yeah.
And they took them out in the animated version. It's like, why would you get rid of that?
They were so good in this. Like, because, I mean, it doesn't happen throughout the whole movie. It's not like a running narration, but it just set the tone. It was so cool. It feels like you're reading a comic.
Oh, the thing is too, like, I was going in, I was like, oh man, I'm buzzed to see it and stuff. And you have your opening scene, which we can talk about, but like directly after that, they have the introduction of Batman, where you have like his voiceover, and he's doing like, darkness, no parents, like all the usual stuff. But as it was going on, they're just showing you like the signal, and then all this montage of like criminals, like guy robbing a shop and going out, and then seeing the signal and being like,
oh, I love that so much.
And like that guy getting off the subway and the gang coming after him. And then Bruce been like building and building and getting the doom.
Yeah, you felt scared of him coming.
Yeah. And then just they had that one of his lines was like, they think I'm in the shadows, but I am the shadows. And I was like, it's Batman. And then just that bit with the guys getting attacked, and then the kind of, I guess they're kind of like a Joker gang, or well, I have to get into what the hell those guys are up to.
Well, they always kind of do that in Batman movies. There's always like a clown element, even when the Joker's not there. I think like a Warriors kind of thing.
It seems that we get to it at the end. It seems like the Joker has been around.
Oh, actually, that's a good point. Yeah.
So I don't know if this gang is like an offshoot of him or something, but yeah, just then like the footsteps approaching. And like, there's all these where is he in the shadows? And I was like, these guys, he's in their shadows. Yeah. And this is like him slowly coming out. And then even though just seen that scene a billion times in the promos and stuff of what are you supposed to be? And him just freaking tearing a guy apart and going back in when he didn't even need to finish him off. Brutal. And then just I'm vengeance. And it was like, oh my God, I'm so in for this now.
I know, because in the trailer it seemed a bit cheesy, but in the movie it didn't come across that way.
Yeah,
I think because of the build-up, it was genuinely quite scary, and you felt the fear on the villains when they did see the signal, when they're like, thinking, "Oh my god, oh no, he's coming, he's coming,"
yeah,
and you're sat there going, "He's coming."
And to be fair too, it's also a thing that was done in The Dark Knight, of course. At the beginning of that is like the signal, and then that guy remember there's a bit of a guy trying to buy drugs off someone, and the drug dealer looks up and he's like, "No, man, not tonight."
Yeah,
like,
but that didn't feel as scary. That felt more like it was almost kind of funny. Like, oh look, they're scared of the Batman.
Well, even at that though, that's just a realistic version of it. This is like, oh, it's gritty and realistic, but it's also very gothic and theatrical because the Gotham in this movie, which is Liverpool,
and Glasgow,
and Glasgow,
mostly Liverpool.
Liverpool, St George's Hall, appearing on screen more than Colin Farrell in this friggin' movie. Every time it showed up, it was like the Flugelheim or the Monarch Theatre in '89, where it's like, there it is again. Oh, there's St George's Hall. There it is again.
And we see that building all the time.
I was tempted to walk past it after because it's literally like, well, it's 5 feet from the theater. I might as well go over and see it. Yeah. It's like, I just saw it for like 30 straight minutes on screen.
You're sick of it now. Never want to see it again.
But the Gotham they portray, though, again, it's very influenced by Seven. There's direct scenes from Seven in this, to be fair.
But what's the only way to make Seven better? Put Batman in it.
Yeah, but they just did this beautiful thing. It's like it's this movie. It's the city from Seven, but it seems to be perpetually nighttime. And it's a huge city, but it feels very constricting. Like they show you these shots of them when they're on top of when they're by the bat signal. I was like, oh, this place is huge. Like it's a massive, massive city. But when you're down the streets, it feels like you're crammed in.
Yeah,
and it's always it's like not even like a light rain. It's beating down rain atop of you. And then besides Seven, it's kind of Blade Runner-y because it's got all these screens everywhere, and it's crammed full of so much crap and like product placements and like not in terms of like the movie because I guess it is product placement for the movie, but it is just that real sinister like it's it's capitalist nightmare time in God. It's just looks like a horrible place to live. It looks like it's raining so much you could never really clean it. Because it would just be like, we're just going to get rain splatter on it.
Well, do you think that is, not to be, I was going to say not to spoil the movie. This is a spoiler thing. Do you think that's kind of also to tie into, because with the Riddler, we kind of get him being portrayed, I'm trying to think of the way to word it, kind of like an incel. Kind of like, he's got this weird online community of like followers and things. So do you think it's like that? Like they're disillusioned people who hate the world they're in?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think their entire intention at the end was like, yeah, he is that incel that you've heard about, and particularly too when they showed you because he's supposed to appear so fearsome when he's like showing people's heads trapped in rat cages and stuff like that. Full going into Saw territory there.
Oh yeah, that was really. I thought, oh my god, that's maybe too far.
That was one of the bits where you're like, okay, this is not for kids. Like,
there was a kid in the cinema, and I was thinking, why have you brought them?
Yeah, I mean, you could kind of tell from the posters it wasn't going to be for kids. But then there was a real like, how did this? I think it's a 15 here.
Yeah,
it's 15, which is the same as the first Batman. But I would feel more comfortable showing children the '89 Batman than I would this.
Oh, absolutely! I would show a kid '89 Batman any day of the week. Yeah, but this, no.
Yeah.
But then again, I feel like a hypocrite because as a kid, I would have watched this.
Oh, I would have loved this as a kid. Yeah. But yeah, it's weird though. At the end of the show, like the Riddler's little private message to his followers, and it is just, oh, he's just an asshole and like a stupid mask and a coat.
Yeah, and he's not putting his voice on anymore. Yeah, it's just like, hey everyone.
So I'm gonna go. I don't think I'm gonna upload for a while. You're just like,
he might as well say, smash that subscribe button.
Yeah. It's got a weird kind of joke too. Like he's got a following of 500 subscribers. It's like, I mean, I think we have over 500 subscribers.
We do.
Could we amass like a Bat-Minute army if we wanted to?
But I like that though because it's more realistic in that, in these movies it's often like, oh, there's thousands of them dominating the streets, but all he needs is like 500 dedicated crazy people to make a difference. That one person can commit a crime. 500 of them can do what they do in this movie.
I think also worked for him in the. You always wonder if there is some kind of meta commentary on the impact of Heath Ledger's Joker on our culture.
Yeah.
Because, you had the Joker profile pics were running rampant, and, people, they put, it kind of led to the Joaquin Phoenix Joker.
Yeah.
People sort of like, oh yeah, he became a kind of weird folk hero because it's like, oh, the Joker's right, man, and all that kind
Well,
of.
unfortunately, yeah, you get people literally buying into that. Not buying into it and just like, oh, it's a fun character. People seem to really identify with that Joker, which is that's not what you're meant to be getting from that.
I think it's the. I wonder if they're trying to make some comment because the Joker in the heart, like, Heath Ledger's Joker is it's a great character. He's a great villain. And the thing is, like, I think the only big failing in the movie for me is that it's because you're used to that being like the last solo Batman movies you saw in theaters were those Chris Nolan's ones, and they had big villains that everything just ramped up and up and up and up.
Yeah.
And like the Joker was such a thing of like, by the end, you're like, Jesus Christ, someone has to catch this guy because he will not stop. And he keeps doing these huge things and they keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then that obviously has a big impact on our culture because people are like, oh man, the Joker's so cool. And that will then go on to influence like weird online people who think that they're cool by putting Joker avatars and stuff like that. And then then the Riddler comes like, oh, he's kind of like that. And he's the same kind of thing. But then to reveal him to be like, he's actually kind of just like a sniveling dweeb.
yeah.
Who's not impressive. Once you, like, I guess his plan at the end, like the whole, he outsmarted Batman, I guess. But like, he does have this moment of like, oh, so he's not impressive.
No, and he admits that
as
actually.
A guy.
He says at one point how he can't fight. He can't. He's not physical. He even brings that up. He's like, that's not what I can do to make my difference.
I'm wondering now if that's why they didn't show his face in the promos. Because I was thinking, like, is it going to be he's messed up somehow? He's got some weird scarring. Or like, they did in the Earth 1 comics, which is very, very heavily influenced by, because the Riddler is killing, public figures in that storyline as well. He's got a question mark tattoo on his face. So I was like, oh, they're going to show him. He's got a question mark, a tattoo on his face, man. And it's going to be so metal.
No, it was much cooler than that.
When they show him then, again, it's kind of like Seven. It's kind of like when they arrest John Doe. Yeah. And it's just like, it's just some dude. Although Kevin Spacey, he looked a bit more intimidating in Seven because he was so troll-like and, But then you see Paul Dano, it's like, oh, he's just some dweeb.
He's just a guy that you'd work with or whatever. Yeah.
And I think that's supposed to be the reveal. It's like, oh, we showed you that it won't have the impact of you going like, oh, it's a guy. Like, it's just a guy.
It is interesting as well when he does get caught. Because we were watching the trailer and we were worried, like, oh, is he going to get himself caught deliberately?
Is it going to be a thing the Dark Knight did, and then every movie did for like 5 or 6 years after?
And although
that cell's gonna blow, and what do you know, he's out, and he meant to get caught the whole time.
Well, although he does deliberately get caught, it's not for that reason. It's basically just like, well, my mission's done.
Yeah.
It's not so he has a grand plot from behind bars. No. I mean, he wants to speak to Batman, but that's about it, really, isn't it? It's like, well,
that was the thing too. One of the big things at the end for me is like, oh wow, is this what they're doing? Because I love that he was the whole way throughout. He appeared as if like this is the smug asshole Riddler from the comics that and love/hate.
Love to hate.
And there's sometimes Dano. Actually, sorry, my apologies. I found out recently his name is Paul. It's pronounced Dano.
Oh, okay. So I've been saying it right. Yay!
Yeah, so
that makes
Paul
a change.
Dano. I saw himself say Dano. I was like, oh, so it's been Dano this whole time. So book him, Dano. I should have been making that joke all this time. But so he, he appears to be this intimidating. This guy, he knows who Batman is, and like he's so ahead of everybody and all this kind of stuff.
Oh, I thought for 90% of the movie, he knows.
Oh yeah, and that was the big twist at the end. It's like he doesn't know, and what he actually thinks him and Batman are friends.
Yeah.
Like they're allies. It's like it's all that stuff in the trailers of to your from your secret friend.
Yeah.
Who, you were like, oh my god, he's playing with them.
Yeah.
It's like, no, he actually thought like, oh, we're on the same page. You and I are not so different. Is the classic dialogue.
I loved that because even when he's going after Bruce Wayne, he thinks, well, Batman will help me with that.
Yeah.
And he kept when he was talking to him finally from behind bars, and he kept saying, in that weird way he was doing. I mean, I've only watched it once, so I'll get the impression wrong. But he's like Bruce Wayne.
Oh, great!
And you think it's like, he's teasing him. It's like, no, he's not.
Batman looking at the security camera like, shut up, man! don't do this to me.
Well, what are you doing?
But that was the thing, though. I was like, okay, so that's a great twist, and it only occurred to me afterwards. Like, it's like a spin on Batman Forever, because first time we saw Edward Nygma, and that was like him, he was a Bruce Wayne fanboy, who thought him and Bruce Wayne were going to work on this project together, and Bruce is like, no, I'm not doing that. And then it's like when Paul Dano stands up and he's like, oh, this is not going the way I thought.
I love the delivery on that. It was genuinely scary.
But that's exactly like, oh, that's not going to be good for me. And you were supposed to understand.
Yeah.
I'll make you understand. It's like, they're doing Batman Forever. It's like they've kind of, not as in they've ripped it off. They've gone like,
noted hack.
Noted hack Matt Reeves. The Joel Schumacher, the only man in Hollywood with any integrity.
Joel's the only man who made original content. Everyone else stole.
But I feel like because they delve into this, that, and the other from every era. Like the amount of little references where you're like, oh, that's a thing. I feel like there was like, well, this is kind of a nod to Batman Forever, where the idea of Riddler thinking that him and Bruce Wayne / Batman are like a thing. They're like, oh, I'm a fan of yours. Like, so I thought that was really cool that they actually brought it back to that.
And his reaction when he realizes it's not going the way he thought is just, it's scary and also hilarious. It's like, also, no, dude, he's not with you.
It's very real as well. You're like, you've met weirdos. Like, it seems like it doesn't appear intimidating. It's more like, oh, he just seems like an actual nut job you get in real life.
Well, I work in a mental health hospital. You get people, I'm not making fun of anyone, obviously, but they act like this. So it's kind of like, it's very real. Yeah.
And so I thought he was, some of the scenes with Dano earlier, where he's in the mask and he's doing his messages, I thought he was going a bit too like, rather do the corruption of Gotham. Like, it was really overdoing it.
Oh, that was my favorite thing.
But I think now, knowing what it is, it's like, I think he's going over the top in that way where it's a bit cringeworthy because he is just an incel and he thinks he's this badass and stuff. He's going to be this revolutionary, and everything is like, oh, he is very clever. And his whole plan is genius, but it's like he still is kind of a dweeb though. Like he's just,
and I like the way you say his plan is genius. He kind of succeeds.
I think that's the weird thing. At the end, it's like, oh no, yeah, mission accomplished, basically for the Riddler.
But only in a literal sense, because in a spiritual, metaphorical, in a wider kind of sense, he doesn't win because it helps bring people together.
Yeah.
Like he achieves his literal aim and fails at the broader scope, because like that's one of my favorite bits as well. I don't care, we're jumping around, people. When Batman goes and rescues the people in the flooded city after the bombs have all gone off. I loved that when he gets the flare and he's leading them to safety, because he's a literal beacon of hope. Yeah.
That's like, and I love that as a thing, because everyone's like, oh, it's just going to be like dark edgelord Batman. And it has the most like heroic, optimistic ending of any of the Batman movies, where it's like, it's him going, I need to be like more of a hero. I need to be like a nicer guy.
Yeah.
Because I'm going around just scaring the crap out of criminals, but like, I'm inspiring them. I'm inspiring other people in a different way that I didn't anticipate. And so I need to be like, that shot of him, it looked really cool in the trailer, but I thought it was him like glaring at the Riddler or something, where he's like covered in crap and like standing on top of a building looking at the sky. And you find out, it's him, he's after delivering someone into like a stretcher.
Yeah.
And they're getting airlifted out, and it's him kind of realizing like, this is what I should be doing. And it's like, that was really great. That was and it's not a side of Batman we get seeing in the movies all that much.
Not really. No, he's kind of like essentially saying he's going to become the Batman you see in I don't know, maybe the animated shows or something.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
becoming a different Batman.
Because it has that bit with the apparently elected mayor, Bella Real, which is, as I was seeing the banners, I was like, this is some Mr. Megorium bullshit here, where it's like Real, so her slogan can be "Let's make Real change," and it's like, you just called her that so you can make the pun. Like, come on.
It's a good pun though. If that was your name, that's what you'd do.
Yeah, she's like, I have to run for mayor. Look at my name. Like, look what I can do with this.
She's pressured into it by those above. Like that, you're gonna have to do it, love. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But she has that bit with Bruce where she's like at the funeral for, I can't remember if it was the commissioner or the mayor. But she's like, well, you could be doing so much for Gotham, Bruce, and you're just sitting up in your ivory tower doing nothing. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of ironic because like we know what he's doing, but I think at the end, next movie he'll have the haircut and he will be more like millionaire philanthropist Bruce Wayne, man of the people kind of thing. Like they might go down that, or he's going to try to do that.
Maybe partially the way there. He's not going to go full. I don't think he's not going to be Christian Bale pretending to sleep with models.
It'd be great though. Just opening shot of the next movie is like Gotham beat with the little the kiss photoshopped on his cheek, and like, oh, Bruce Wayne's so hunky.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe further, of course, than Michael Keaton's reclusive Batman, but not quite the whole hog.
I think it'll be more about maybe him trying to get back in charge of Wayne Enterprises or something like that. He'll be more. Yeah, because the thing is, at the beginning of this, like, people are saying, and accurately so, because the visual is just there. Like, it's very emo looking because he's got the floppy hair.
Yeah.
And the black around the eyes. But the vibe I got from it, though, wasn't that, like, they're deliberately trying to evoke an emo aesthetic. It's more like he hasn't cut his hair because he doesn't care.
Yeah.
He doesn't, like, we should really touch upon, like, he's in that suit about 95% of the movie.
He's barely Bruce Wayne in it, which I suppose makes sense because this Bruce Wayne is a bit like Michael Keaton in that he is a reclusive guy. They even say he's the most reclusive person in Gotham, other than Maroni.
No,
Falcone. Sorry, Maroni.
I was gonna say
it's because I've got the bloody plot in front of me. Other than Falcone, which I thought was great as well. Both of them are just like hiding away in the shadows.
We'll say, very disappointed that I don't think they said Carmine the Roman Falcone even once. I think they just always called him Falcone.
Oh no, I thought they did. But again, we've only seen it the once, listeners. I thought they did call him it. They definitely called him. They definitely mentioned he's called the Roman.
Maybe they might have said it once, but I was waiting because they kept calling, Oswald Cobblepot. I don't think they ever called him Oswald Cobblepot. It was always I'm Oz.
Oz, yeah. They called him the Penguin.
Oh, they called him the Penguin tons. So that's why I was like, well, why not the Roman? Why are they constantly saying the Roman? And they're always like, no, it's always Falcone.
And great casting for the Roman, I thought.
Oh, really? You actually?
I love him all the time, but he was being kind of subtle.
I don't know. He stuck out to me because the cast is uniformly excellent, and he's not doing bad acting. It's just I know John Turturro as low-level guy. He's always kind of a butt of a joke. He's always like, Miller's Crossing. He's like, listen to your heart, like begging for his life.
He could play different parts. I think he pulls it off. He's older now as well.
I don't know. I always looked at him. I was like, he doesn't strike me as the guy in charge. He just seemed like he was like, this has got to be a bigger gangster than him, right?
I thought he felt like a real life kind of. That's what gangsters look like to me. He's a bit older. He's kind of slim. He looks like the one in the comic, a little bit younger, obviously.
Yeah,
but
I was kind of expecting him to be a bit more. We'll talk about Tom Wilkinson's version of Falcone. Not in the not too distant future, but like. He's way better than Tom Wilkinson because Tom Wilkinson's just like, why cast in this part?
How did we get onto this though? We mentioned Bruce being reclusive. I can't remember. We're jumping around too much.
But I was saying, so he's not cut his hair because he just doesn't. He's not about hair.
Yes.
He might as well have just shaved his head. But maybe they thought like that would be a bit too intense looking, so have him with longer hair. And there's a bit even when he comes back and Alfred's like, take a shower, like orders him to take a shower because he's clearly probably not had a shower in days. Where he's just like, I don't care.
You stink of bat.
And at one point he's saying like, if you don't do something with your company, you're gonna lose all your money. And he's just like, I don't care about that. Like he's just so. Though it did get very emo-y When at one point he's like, "You're not my real dad." I was
Oh, and
like, all right, come on.
especially because the movie we've been doing is all about how he realizes Alfred is his dad, essentially.
Yeah.
So I was heartbroken when he said that. I was like, oh no, don't say it. He is your
flashbacks
father.
in that hospital scene. We're like, wait a minute, I've seen this before.
Oh, good Alfred as well, I thought.
Oh, yeah. Andy Serkis very much doing the Earth, almost a literal interpretation of the Earth One version of Alfred, where it's like hard nut, kind of Cockney guy, very much from the military. Barely seems.
But it seems like someone who was doing that, but now he's reining it in these days, because he wasn't too much like, "Oh, right, Bruce," like if Ray Winston did it.
He's got that cane that's kind of indicating he's had an injury. Maybe that's why he's had to. I think they mentioned that he taught Bruce how to fight. I think they mentioned it at one point, where it's like he at least got some of his training from Alfred, teaching him how to box or something, I guess.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah. And again, that's all from Earth 1 too, where it's like, yeah, he's like, I think he calls himself the butler once to sort of be like, well, this is why I'm here. And then it kind of becomes a joke that Bruce is like, well, you're the butler, remember? And he's like, oh, God damn it. Like, and has to kind of keep up a bit. Although he's very good as well. He doesn't get many scenes, but like, I just love that Bruce brings back a clue. And then the next morning, he comes into like the dining room, and Alfred's got the breakfast out, and he's sitting deciphering the riddle as well. It's like, oh, they're a team already. This is great.
It's great, and it's such a slightly older English person to do. Like, sit with the breakfast doing the crossword.
yeah. This is the Sunday riddle.
Yeah.
He's got.
Essentially, it is, isn't it? I thought that was great. And I fully, because I'm a sucker, I fall for things. I thought they just straight up killed him. When the bomb went off, I was like, oh my God, they've killed Alfred. I almost jumped out of my chair. I was like, no.
We just saw Mr. Freeze cure him, for Christ's sake. You can't take him away from me now.
Oh, because I thought, how's he survived that? The explosion. Okay, maybe it's a bit far-fetched, but you're like, oh, he got wounded. Okay. But I thought he was dead. I thought they had the balls to kill him in the first of these movies. I say the first as if we know for a fact they're making a second one.
I forgot to look up. There's a random lady around the house.
Yeah.
It's not like I know I'd never heard of her before. It could be like, oh, this is a reference to like a very obscure character from like the 50s or something.
Yeah.
I was kind of borderline going like, is that Aunt Harriet? Like,
well,
are they doing this? But he calls her something else. But it's like, this is kind of like you got Aunt Harriet knocking around.
Well, and that's why I thought they've killed him. I thought, oh, she's the new Alfred. This old lady.
But so the vibe was she didn't know that Bruce was pet. So like, it is very Aunt Harriet. Like, oh, she lives in the house and she seems to deal with Bruce's stuff, but it's completely unaware that like, oh yeah, he's Batman. All right.
Well, she's only there in 9 to 5 maybe. I don't think does she live there? I got the vibe she maybe didn't. She's not hanging around with Alfred all the time.
I have to actually look at. I can't remember what they called her, but I have to examine who that might have been and find out like was this a reference to something?
It'll be some random comic that you've never read. As much as a comic fan as you are, there's probably like 90% you haven't read. There's so many.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, there's like literally thousands upon thousands of issues.
Exactly. She's probably.
Although I did note in that scene though with the bomb going off, Alfred has a landline, and it was very like the 60s phone.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, that's great. It's like, because they are doing like little nods here, there, and everywhere. Like Pattinson's cowl is basically Adam West's cowl, only not as goofy looking.
Made much, much, much better.
Yeah.
Great cowl.
And like,
another thing I loved.
Oh, the costume was impeccable. Loved the look of it. Loved everything about it. Particularly after Batflex, I hated that outfit so much.
I really liked the I guess gauntlets that he had, because it looked kind of practical. Like they looked like armor.
Yeah,
but real armor, not Batman's super armor that his tech company has created. It looked like, well, you could maybe like buy that.
Well, most of it did feel, as comic booky as it all was, it felt all very believable, more even than the Nolan movies, except for those contact lenses.
Oh yeah, they were. I loved them, but they felt a bit different. I agree. They were more Nolan-y.
They seemed like it was like, this is kind of like Detective Vision from the Arkham games, but he, instead of just little things come down over his eyes, it's an actual. He wears contacts, but seem to record everything.
Yeah.
There's no on button, I guess. I guess it's like a wireless thing. and it's like there seems to be microphones in because like how's he talking to people? Where
Well, he gives Selena an earpiece, but does that work both ways? Is that a mic as well as an earpiece?
that seems to be like borderline magic. Like later on when she digs out the contact.
Oh yeah,
she
they
took
can
out,
chat then.
he doesn't need to even turn anything on. He's just like instantly like, yeah, I can hear you. It's like, what?
I'd have been like, have you been watching me the whole time? Have you been listening to me in the apartment?
Oh, there was a little bit of I think a lesser movie. I think even maybe a Tony Stark movie would have made more of a joke about when he's actually watching her get in the apartment and she strips off.
Oh, make it a bit
And
sexy.
you kind of get the they would have made a little like he looks a bit uncomfortable for a second, or he makes a quip. But it seems to me like it almost feels like he's kind of weird. He's so psychotically hyper focused on what he's doing. He's not even getting. It's like this is Zoe Kravitz getting stripping down her underwear, man. That doing nothing for you. Right?
Yeah, he doesn't seem to care, does he, at all? No.
Yeah. Should say another thing too. She is fantastic.
She was great. She was, and I don't know too much about her. I mean, I know she is, but I haven't seen her in a lot of things. So I was a bit like, oh, okay, is she going to pull it off? Yes, she does pull it off very, very well.
Back during Returns, I was skeptical because I was like, not. It was just because I was like, I've seen her in stuff, and she didn't really wow me. And then since then, they had that High Fidelity TV reboot, and she was the star of that, and I loved her in that. And then she was in Kimmy recently, which was very good in that as well. And I was like, as soon as I saw, but she had the pixie cut, and then the suit. It's like she looks like Darwin Cook's
she looked,
Catwoman.
Yeah, she looked really comic booky. But when we say that, we don't mean because people think, oh, comic book, over the top, bright colors. No, we don't mean like that.
Yeah.
She looked like the more, I don't want to say modern even, because obviously Dark Victory and stuff isn't modern, but
yeah, I don't think she's
that
like,
era, that world.
Those scenes of her in the apartment were like straight from year one. Like the Frank Miller's year one. It's that look. It's like, I think there's even might be an identical scene to it in that, actually, to be fair. But
maybe that's what they're going for. Yeah, straight up.
Yeah, and she was like, as everything you wanted in a. Particularly, like, Michelle Pfeiffer is great, but it's not really Catwoman in terms of like an adaptation of the comic book Catwoman.
No, it's Tim Burton's Catwoman.
Yeah, and she's great, fantastic at that, but it's not like as much as like that's a spin on the Penguin, but it's not the Penguin. Although to be fair, it's more of a spin on the Penguin in this movie as well. But and then they had obviously Halle Berry just doesn't try.
Whatever that was.
And then Anne Hathaway, I was always just like, nah, man, this just seems like she's pretending to be. It seems like a drastically miscast person pretending to be this slinky cat burglar. It's like, I don't. But everything about Zoe Kravitz just oozed, I am Catwoman, and it was like, yeah, phenomenal. I loved every scene of her.
She was so cool.
I have to say too, her theme as well. This whole soundtrack's amazing.
Oh, I was obsessed with the music. Obsessed.
But she has this, it starts off with a very light jazzy bit of piano, and then it builds up in this sweeping, kind of like 1960s lounge strings. It goes in very Bond almost, and then a little bit film noir-y, and it's like, oh, it was great. It was really, really great. And it's so in contrast to Batman's theme.
Oh, his theme, right. In the trailers and stuff, I wasn't that wowed by the theme. In the finished product, it's one of the coolest things I've ever heard in my life. And it keeps coming up. It keeps coming up over and over, but it's never boring. Every time you hear those notes, you're just like, yes!
But they have I was wondering if it was intentional, because it sounds borderline Imperial Marchy.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. Like, it's almost. I'm wondering if they're like, well, that's intentional because everyone knows that music, and we want to evoke him as being this very dark, imposing character. So who's a dark, imposing character is Darth Vader. So.
And you want to something I really liked. I felt this might sound really weird in a stretch, but I felt like the pacing of his theme fit the way he walks, because he's quite slow most of the time.
Yeah, it's very calculated.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a Batman who walks. This is Michael Myers Batman.
He only really goes like hyper athletic and stuff at the very end when he's fighting the sort of phony Riddlers.
Yeah.
And he literally gets so messed up he has to inject himself with drugs.
But even within the music as well, though, because he has like the great don don, and then during that big final fight as well, I noted it must be a deliberate reference because it kicks into the track on the soundtrack is called "A Bat in the Rafters," "A Bat in the Rafters" Part 2 specifically, and it has a real it just goes into hot and heavy with dun, 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 dun. But at one point it just goes. Bah, bah. I'm like, is that them going Batman? Like it's supposed to be a musical nod to that. It's like if it is, that's great. Like,
It probably is. You're right. I didn't pick up on it because I mean it's straight afterwards on the bus home. I was listening to the soundtrack again.
But as part of the main theme, because I thought like, the main theme is just the boom, 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 boom. If you go just look up the title track, they put in this very sweeping, sad music that's part of like the end scene. It's really, really terrific. And I was like, no, this is the Batman theme. This very, like that's his kind of leitmotif for when he's doing scary Batman stuff. But when he's like the actual theme of the character is this very melancholic but yet hopeful, and yet it goes up and down, swoops back and forth, and it's really, really, really terrific. So I would not. I don't think I'll step back and going probably the best score since Danny Elfman in live action.
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, Shirley Walker did phenomenal stuff. We'll talk about it next season. But yeah, like it blows. Hans Zimmer, I enjoy, but like this is way better than that. Like,
this is phenomenal. This is amazing. And you said the word swoop actually, and that made me think. We do sort of see Batman fly.
Yeah.
And I love the way they did it because again, it felt real, but it also felt like a moment. Something realistic shouldn't like. It's really difficult to make you go like, whoa, with a realistic thing, but it worked. And I love the way it went wrong, essentially.
Yeah. I like there's a little slight vibe of him, too. As he's trapped up there. He's like, oh, what am I going to do? And he's like, that's right, I have this thing. Okay, let's hope this works.
Yeah, it feels like he's maybe not used it before. Like, okay, this is...
It was a real, like, I hope
resort.
I never have to use this.
Yeah.
And it's more like it's a flying squirrel kind of thing. But that whole sequence, too, with... he's in the police station, and then he has the relationship with Gordon, and they're kind of like, okay, we think we got things sorted, but I'm gonna have to punch you to kind of cover your ass, basically.
Oh, I love that secret conversation they're having very quietly, like.
I was like, you think he moonlight for the Penguin? The way Jeffrey Wright moves his head, but I think that punch is because I think Matt Reeves has said like, oh yeah, Chinatown's an influence. Which might be in the whole Turturro being Carmine Falcone being Selina's dad is from the comics, but like I think that's where the Chinatown element's playing in. But then that punch is like that's straight from the French Connection. There's a bit where Gene Hackman comes in to interrogate guys in a bar, and he hauls one fella into a bathroom to be like, all right, come on in here, buddy. And then when they get into the bathroom, it turns out they're actually like buddies. And he's like, the guy's working undercover. And then Hackman comes out and has to full on deck him in the head. And you're like, okay, there we go. But yeah, but undersung hero of the movie, Jeffrey Wright's Commissioner Gordon.
Oh, well. So good. So good.
Just like, love their... I keep saying love in this so much, but
because that's the only word you can use. It's so perfect.
Yeah, it's just their relationship was just like we got Batman and Gordon working together, intensely during Nolan's trilogy, but it always had that like arm's length kind of vibe, which was the thing I always grow frustrated with at times. Where like, why can't Batman be more friendly to Gordon?
You just want a nice pal. And
that's what it seems like in this movie. It's like, yeah, they are pals. Like in that little secret conversation they're having. I think it was one. I can't remember who says it to who, but like I think Batman's like, do you trust him? And Gordon's like, I trust you.
Yeah.
And like you don't know why these guys are hooked up, but the fact that he's so like, I 100% give myself over to the Batman. I believe that he's a good guy. And I think at one point too, where like Gordon's name potentially comes up as a potential victim.
Yeah.
And he's like, you can come after me, and Batman's like, no, because you're not corrupt. He just so believes that Gordon is like, he's a straight shooter. It's like,
he knows for a fact. Yeah.
And yeah, so then all their little interrogations together and looking at clues and hanging out I loved it.
Oh, that's a good point. This is one of the only movies I can think of with Batman where he's a detective.
Yeah, they're doing the proper, and they establish it so early on too, when like he shows up at that crime scene, and they do it very subtly, where they're trying to find loads of stuff, and Batman just goes over, and you see his eye notice one thing on the floor, and he's just like clocks it himself. And then one of the forensic people will go like, "Oh yeah," like they're like, "Oh, we missed a thing over here," and it's just like he's that good. He is the Dark Knight detective. Came in, got things instantly.
Well, I'd say he's actually a detective in this movie more than he's ever a fighter. He only has a couple of action-y scenes, really, when you think about it. He spends more of the movie investigating.
Yeah. It's the a lot of his fights too. They really just seem like brawls.
Yeah.
It's proper, just like, yeah, you know he's trained, but it doesn't seem like he's super ninja. It seems like this guy just, it could be like an extension of a bar fight.
Yeah, it's not like super choreographed and stuff. It feels like he tackles them and beats them to a pulp.
Yeah. I wonder if that's going to be the way they go with, like, because this one's like, oh, this is really taxing his mind. But they had that little hint, like, yeah, when he has, he really wrecks his arm, nearly falling off the rafters at the end, and Selina has to pull him up. And then when she's getting attacked by the Riddler guy, like one of the Riddler's goons, he pulls out a little thing and injects him, and then that turns him ferocious, and he really lays into the guy. And even she looks a bit like, Jesus Christ, dude, calm down.
Yeah, it's kind of like an adrenaline shot because he's knackered. Yeah,
I think it's Venom.
I was thinking it might be possibly what they're going to go for. Yeah,
because I think maybe the next one we talked about earlier in the Batman and Robin season, there is a plot line just called Batman Venom before Bane's even introduced, wherein Batman, I think the little girl ends up drowning because he can't save her because he's not strong enough to lift a rock to get down to her. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're in their percolations for a sequel is like, well, maybe we're gonna do, now we've tested his mind so much, he's gonna have to push his body, and then it's gonna be like, he'll end up becoming, they might just do the Venom storyline of him, and like he gets addicted to this stuff and has to go off it again. It
could be a kind of like an allegory for like hard drugs, because this movie they kept talking about loads of different people. Yes, it's inspired by like Nirvana and things like that. So maybe that's where they're going. It's like, yeah, he's kind of a druggie.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff about drugs in this one actually. What do they call them? Drops.
Yeah, the drop. I thought the drop thing was going to lead to more, because they spent a lot of time with like that guy at the start had the drop mask.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, okay, so is this tied into? It's kind of got a smiley face. Is this going to be like a Joker thing? And then like, nah, it's just drugs.
I think it's just to show the city falling apart, and people are involved in it. Like the DA's taking them and stuff, isn't he?
Yeah. Wasn't that isn't there a specific drug in RoboCop as well?
Yeah.
Or RoboCop 2, I think there's a
RoboCop 2 probably, because the kid's a drug dealer who runs the gang, isn't he?
Is that weird? What do they call it? I'll have to look it up, actually, because they have a very specific little thing they inject into their neck.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they call it, but I remember it was really one of those, like, why would you take that if you have to inject it in your... I guess, why would you take any drug if you have to...
Well, yeah, why would you take heroin? You have to put it in your veins. It's like, oh, that's horrible. But apparently, I was going to say it's worth it. No, I don't think it's worth it. Apparently, it's so good that you overlook that.
Nuke was what it's called.
Nuke,
little red capsules they inject into their neck, and it's maybe just like we don't want to have to outright say, because they did do weird bits of like censorship where Colin Farrell's bemoaned the fact that he couldn't smoke.
Yeah.
He really wanted to have a cigar because, like, well, the Penguin's a smoker. But maybe they're like, can't have him smoking. You can't allude to actual drug use, so you have to make up drops.
It is a shame with the cigar, though, because that would suit the character.
Oh, totally. 100%. And we probably might as well talk about Colin Farrell while we're here. He was great.
I thought he was fantastic. Yeah. I wasn't sure which way he was going to go, because from the trailer, I thought, is he going to be like kind of really loud and over the top, and he's going to be the wild, crazy one, because there's that bit where he's getting chased by the car.
Yeah.
He's like, I got him! So I thought he was going to be shouting the whole time. And he's actually kind of real as well. He doesn't feel like a cartoon.
Oh, he's very, yeah, he came across genuinely. It's like, this is just like low-level mob guy who's
Yeah.
I think he said he's slightly influenced by Fredo Corleone.
I get that. Yeah.
And that one of my favorite scenes is the interrogation between him, Gordon, and Batman, where they have like, oh, there's this good shot, bat cop, and like at one point too, even Gordon's roaring at him, and it's just like I was watching like, oh, this is great. This is proper like old school, hard boiled detective stuff.
Totally.
Like, trying to break the suspect. And speaking though as well of that car chase, one of the other scenes, again being such an easy sell and all Batman stuff. One of the other scenes that got me like tears streaming down my eyes, I was so happy, was when that Batmobile first showed up.
Yeah, very. I don't want to say underused. That makes it sound like I'm disappointed. It's just little used in the movie.
Yeah, it's only really like the one scene.
Yeah. He's on a bike most of the time.
But it was just the way they do it. Batman, he's taken down during this fight, and you kind of just forget that the Batmobile is even going to be in the movie.
Yeah.
And then he disappears, and then you hear like the engine rev, and then it's just the glow of it.
It's creepy.
And the way they build it up, and the sound design, because it has this real.
Yeah, and I saw it in a massive cinema, so it was rumbling. It was like,
yeah, and once you think like, oh, it's reached the height of that thing, it's like, no, it keeps going like, and like everyone's so freaked out by it.
The kid in the audience actually didn't like that noise. They were like, oh.
Get out of the way, kid. More from me.
Because it did go quite high, didn't it? It was like,
But and I'm sure maybe that was an intentional thing of Batman as part of like an intimidation factor.
yeah.
But was this then the fact that like it built up and then it like stalled as well? Like he tries to go and it just stops.
That's the only bit I was a bit confused about, actually. Is that what happened? Because that's what I thought. But then also, I was like, well, that's a bit strange. Why would you put that?
I wasn't too sure if it stalled and that was kind of partly part of a joke where it's like it's so big and intimidating, but he's so ramshackle that it stalled on him, or if he was kind of going like, go.
Yeah,
on.
like a little, like a guy coming up to you and like going, like they put their arms out and go, come on.
Yeah. Or like, the drag race kind of thing of coming up and like revving the engine next to a car to go like,
yeah,
let's do this,
I couldn't work it out myself. It felt like it stalled, but that was a bit strange. But there's not a lot of comedy.
It's like a choose your own interpretation thing of like, well, if you want it to be a joke and it stalled, great. But if you want it to be, he's going like, let's go, buddy.
Well,
like,
when we watch it a second time, it might be clear.
But then the thing about that chase too was like, because we've covered in intricate detail, minute by minute, Batmobile chases. Like freaking four times so far, and every one of the original.
Oh, you've
movies
got to put
Batmobile.
one in your movie, I think. Yeah.
And this one, it's not like, oh yeah, flipping an 18-wheeler, like, oh, very fancy set piece. It is a big set piece. But I love they just introduced the simple concept that even Chris Nolan, with all his, like, we're going realistic with it, for some reason Gotham streets very empty at night.
Yeah.
Except in this version, where it's a high-speed chase through full-blown traffic, and it's bucketing rain, and you can barely see what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
And it just feels like this is panic-inducing, because like the Penguin is like, I gotta get out of here. And this huge friggin' monster car is behind me, but it's also like, this is just, the city has too many people in it, and of course it's cramped, and of course I can't just zoom down a big empty street and do a fancy turn.
And of course it has a bad outcome because it's so crammed and packed, and you're in such a rush. It's not going to end well.
And then that was the bit at the end of the second trailer. But yeah, it just still really, really works with him, like, thinking he got him.
Yeah.
And then the car coming, bashing into him, flipping the Penguin's car to, like, the extent of, that would kill him. Like, without a doubt.
Hey, people survive weird things like that. I know someone who was in a crash. They weren't getting chased by a Batman, but they were in a crash where they flipped loads. Fine. No, absolutely fine. It's bizarre, but then you can get slightly bumped and die,
And then, of course, the fantastic shot of Batman slowly approaching him as he's watching, and the flames behind him.
So cool, making it upside down as well.
Yeah, like a bat, I guess.
Yeah,
hanging upside down like a bat.
And that's when they do take him away for the little interrogation, isn't it? And that made me think that the movie, for a modern movie, a modern superhero movie. I mean, can you call Batman a superhero? I always hate saying that because he's not to me. He's a guy, but very little comedy. There's only
Yeah,
a couple of jokes, and to me, they work. They landed. Like, the cinema laughed when he says to Selena, like, you got a lot of cats. It felt real. It feels like that's how people would talk. It didn't feel out of place.
I did one of the jokes I actually probably cracked up at, and I don't know, was it supposed to be that funny? Of when one of the Riddler's first clues is thumb drive.
No, that was funny, yeah.
Thumb, and it's you use that to unlock it's a thumb drive. And it's I thought that was good, but no one else in the theater laughed. But I was like, oh, no, that was good.
Oh, they didn't mind. They laughed at that. They laughed at the cats. They laughed at. This is what made me think of it actually with the interrogation, the way they just walk. They just leave. They just leave the penguin there tied up, and he waddles off like a penguin.
Yeah. So notice he had a kind of slight like limp earlier in the movie. Like, oh, maybe that's why they call him the penguin. It's like, no, we're flat out like. And there's this moment in that where he goes, "Oh, world's greatest detectives." It's like, there it is.
Well, actually, that's another good thing. They were a bit stupid at a couple of points. They missed obvious things because, to me, their leap of logic of going, was it a rat with wings or something?
Oh yeah,
and like a stool pigeon. I was like, I'm sat there thinking, a bat.
Yeah.
Why would it be a stool pigeon? What the?
For like 20 minutes of the movie, you're going, it's a bat.
It's a bat.
It's a bat. It's a bat. It's a rat with wings. It's a bat.
I was so shocked none of them thought of that. You could say that's actually a negative point of the movie, I guess. Like, the first thing you would think is it's a bat.
Well, maybe it could be like, can't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
Like, he wouldn't think of himself because he's like, well, I know I'm not the problem. But like, but I was the whole time thinking of, our penguin going, rats or bats with wings, do your thing. It's like, a rat with wings, it's a bat. I also felt quite vindicated in that that whole season we were calling him Ozzy C for Oswald Cobblepot.
Yeah.
And this one is like, yeah, I'm Oz. And like, oh, they're just, what the hell?
I think because that kind of rough, tough guy operating the iceberg lounge, which we get to see a different interpretation of in this, he's not called Oswald.
Yeah, I don't know if it was, I think maybe he's trying to hide his name. It's like, oh, Oz is the coolest version of Oswald.
Yeah, Oz works. Oz is in Buffy.
Yeah. Well, we have a friend, Oz.
Yep.
But I always find out he spells it with an S. I always find that's a bit disappointing to me because I'm like, well, the Z adds to it, man.
If you can use it, use it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, how many people can have Z in their name? Come on, dude.
I did really like the Iceberg Lounge in this. I thought it was again realistic version, but the way there's a club within a club. What was the other one called? That had a different name.
The 44 below.
That was cool because it alludes to temperature again.
Yeah. It just seemed like a club I've been in and hated.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, I hated there so much. Reminded me of the opening of the Batman Beyond intro, where there's that random shot of people dancing in a club. So it's got like, there's this one guy really grooving in the back, and you're like, there's this one, like, a couple of frames of animation repeated over and over. But I was just surprised to find that big fight with Batman was in the club, because I thought it was like, oh, that must be like a factory or something.
Yeah.
And then find out, like, no, take it easy, sweetheart. Like, no, that's the Iceberg Lounge. Like, oh man. Well, oh no, that does look like a horrible, grimy club that people would go to.
Well, it kind of is a factory, isn't it? It's like an old warehouse that they've turned into a club, which felt real again, because I know a million of them, especially in Liverpool. They always turn warehouses into clubs and bars and stuff.
I think they on the outside, painted on the wall was like iceberg fish.
Yeah.
I think it might have been like a fish factory or something like that. But I was just speaking too of Catwoman when she's in the club. I was wondering, I have to go through it again to see if it actually does come off that way, because she wears several wigs throughout the movie, and I think somewhere someone said there's 9 wigs, so she has 9 different
9 lives.
Like her 9 lives. So she'll have like obviously her normal pixie cut, then the Pussy Riot mask she's got.
Yeah.
And then the several different wigs. And I was like, was it 9 though? Was it for sure 9?
Off the top of my head, I can only think of about 4. But maybe I'm just again. I wasn't sat there counting wigs in the cinema. Yeah. That's what I do on the second.
You might get in the background, like, maybe in the background it'll be like, oh, there's photos of her in different wigs or something. That's actually that movie she's in that's out like 2 weeks ago, Kimmy. She's got a kind of very cropped Ramona Flowers-esque blue wig going on in that. I wonder if that was that a reject from the Batman? Where Zoe's like, I'm keeping this one. I think I'm going to use it in my current lockdown movie I'm making.
Well, here's a question then. Why Again, I've only seen it once, listeners, so don't, I'm sure by the time you hear this, I've probably seen it again. Why would she wear different wigs at the club? Because she already worked at the club. Was it just like, well, it's cool? I don't know.
Yes, fashion, darling.
Because it's not like the Roman... Oh, wait, I'm just calling him the Roman, like we were doing a comic. It's not like he knew who she
the Roman
was.
Falcon.
Yeah. It's not like he knew that's his daughter. So she's not in disguise. Like, he knows who she is and, they have a relationship, but he didn't know it was his daughter, did he?
It could be like a psychological thing. Like Bruce has his mask that is his real face, so basically, that he barely ever takes off. And then she's got her different, when she's in different modes, she puts on different wigs.
That makes sense to me as someone who becomes a character for the band. It does transform your the way you think, kind of thing. Like you become, cause I'm not anxious then. Like, oh, I'm a character now. I'm not an anxious person anymore. Because people come over and they're so happy to see you and they buy you a drink and they want a photo with you and suddenly that's fine. If someone did that in my normal life, I'd be like, bugger off.
I just like the idea of her though, with that her roommate was it Annika. Don't know why they didn't just call her Holly, because that would have been a nod to she's just the kids, like Holly, her roommate from the comics. Why not just do that? It's like in that second Turtles movie they made recently with Megan Fox, and April O'Neil had a roommate with glasses that was called some random name. It's like, just call her Irma.
Yeah.
Just have it be Irma. What the hell's the matter with you?
They probably think, well, we need to save that in case we do another one.
Yeah. It's the same with all the freaking Carl Grissom stuff. Like, just call him Rupert Thorne, for Christ's sake. But I like the idea though of her at home with Annika going like, get me two, making a phone call, get me 2 beers and my conversation wig. Popping on like a little.
Oh, I'm gonna call my my band wig the conversation wig now, because when I put that on, I can talk to strangers.
I would have thought within that club, because I've worn a wig on several occasions for like costumes and stuff, and like you're boiling in them.
Oh yeah.
I guess maybe she's in like she's got nice shoulder bearing outfits on. Maybe she's relieving herself that way.
No, it'll still be hot. I've worn very little sometimes. When I dressed as Alicia Witt from Cecil B. Demented, I was still boiling because the wig just makes you hot. And they're fancy wigs. That wig's like £100. It's not. That's not the difference. It's not that it's a cheap wig. They're just always hot. Oh Jesus! As someone with no hair as well. Oh.
I did see an interview with Paul Dano. Dano. Where he was talking about like, because his he wraps his head in saran wrap.
Yeah, which I didn't realize from seeing pictures of him. I thought it was just a full mask, but no, you can see the wrap, can't you?
Yeah. And he was on this interview saying it's very specifically. He's like it's cling film because the saran people do not want to be associated with the Batman.
Oh yeah, because over here we call it cling film anyway. Americans call it the brand name, don't they? Usually.
Yeah. There's a tannoy. But he's saying like, yeah, it was his idea because he's like, well, I as an actor need to go out and still work in the world, so I thought briefly of shaving all the hair off my body so I wouldn't leave any hairs. He wouldn't leave hairs at the scene of the crime and stuff. And then he's like, I can't go out bald, and I was like, sorry, Paul. Like, is that some sort of baldest statement you just made?
Oh, I'm not a fan anymore.
So it's his idea then to be like, I'll wrap my head in saran wrap. That'd be a cool, creepy thing to do. And then he said, like, on the first day of filming, under the lights, in the mask, and like, and he was like, oh God. And then he started like seeing stars and was like, I think my brain. And he's like, apparently you can't sweat. Like the sweat will go. It's got nowhere to go. It just goes back into your body. It's wrapped so tight. And so he was like, when he went home, he's like, could I die from
Google?
And then he was like, I don't want to be the guy who comes in and spoils things for people by going, yeah, I can't do that anymore. But apparently then it did get brought up, and they're like, you could just, pierce holes in it. And
that's what I was thinking. Just get like needles to poke holes. There you go. Fine.
But was it though as well? The actual opening of the film, appreciated. It sets you off with this Riddler in kind of almost from the get-go, where he comes in, he's such a creep, where he literally creeps in behind the mayor. I thought it was Joel Kinnaman for a bit. I was like, is that?
He had a vibe of him, didn't he?
Is he back? He's just a generic, handsome white man. He's like, you only need him for one scene.
I like Joel Kinnaman a lot, but he's in a lot of bad things.
Yeah.
He needs to pick his projects.
And then when they got him back for The Suicide Squad, and they actually liked Rick Flag in that one, and it's like, oh, no, he's gone now. So
Yeah,
actually killed him off.
Oh.
And then, but fair though, most of the Peacemaker TV show, which is excellent, is all about Peacemaker, like all his regret about killing Rick Flag, and been like, oh, I'm such a piece of crap. Why did I kill Rick Flag?
Oh, okay. I am going to watch it. I am.
Oh, it's a great show. Great show. But the fact though, it's a proper horror movie setup where like, oh, he's in the house and you just see him like Batman in the background, but the thing is like, oh, he's gonna kill him in a really cool way, and then no, it's just like, it just hits him with the thing.
The noise when he did that noise for the first time, I didn't realize he'd make such unhinged sounds. I was like, oh, good God. And then he starts getting out the wrap and the tape and stuff, and I was like, "Oh no, this is creepy. It's almost a bit sexual." I know it wasn't, but I got that vibe. I was like, "Oh God!" And then I look over, of course, and then there's that kid there with their parents. And I'm like, "What are they thinking about this?"
I think again, if we go into it in some level of deeper analysis, this is the return of the kink. Like that essence, that's a full blown gimp mask he's wearing.
It is totally.
There's a little like all the emphasis on duct tape. It's like, this is a real bondage thing going on with this guy. Like it's
he tapes everyone up basically, doesn't he?
Yeah, I was actually surprised when he got the DA, and there's that whole scene where during the funeral where he crashed the car and he's got I was surprised that was Peter Skarsgård because I've seen that clip. But all the duct tape around his face, I didn't know that was Peter Skarsgård. I was like, oh, I guess that's an effective disguise if you ever need it. It would be a terrible disguise, to be fair, because also you wouldn't be able to breathe barely. But
here's another question, actually, about that. You've made me think. I was sat there thinking that entire scene, why has nobody answered the phone?
Yeah.
But isn't that the first thing you would do? It's ringing.
I guess maybe I think it's supposed to be like, if we answer that phone, it could set off the bomb.
But it still could be when they solve the riddle.
I think that's why because I was like, he's been there, must have been like an hour or something, and like no one took the tape off either. And it's like, you think he would have done it himself, but I guess maybe they're like, it could be linked up to something that triggers the bomb, so they have to go. I thought that was actually a cute little comedy moment. Him sitting there really fatigued, and the little robot coming up to him.
It like nudged him a bit as well. With
yeah, then Batman showing up and everyone. I was very happy to see Con O'Neill. He was that cop who was like, hey, really, you got a hoarse voice.
Oh yeah.
He's in tons of stuff. Con O'Neill. Most people would probably remember, he was in Chernobyl, which the recent Chernobyl TV show. He was just one of the guys constantly denying that there was any problems and stuff. But like, I got really into that show, and there was actually a meme page called Chernobyl Graphite Posting.
Meme page for Chernobyl.
For Chernobyl. And he was one of the heroes of the page.
Oh.
So I was like, oh, the Chernobyl guys are going to love this. And freaking Con O'Neill's popped up.
Well, I was thinking afterwards, how on earth are they going to meme this movie? I'm sure they will. I'm excited to see the memes. Because I can't picture what you're going to do.
There is currently the Batman Vengeance posting is a thing. Most of the memes are just about people been hyped up for the movie. So
okay.
Imagine when it goes to digital, then, or you'll get that golden era where the pirate rip is out, and people are making memes out of like blurry, like the dawn of Ben Swallow when that came, and there was like a really out of focus picture of Adam Driver with a shirt on.
Somehow it was funnier with that bad picture.
Oh yeah, because then Disney released the official version, and the memers were like, no, like we want. They're like, here's a gift for you. You can have a high-res version of that image.
No, thanks.
And all the memers are like, we want the pirate version. That adds to the joke.
I'm trying to think what else. I've got a million things I could say here. Another thing. I talked earlier about how, of course, we knew a rat with wings is a bat. There was one other thing I thought was obvious, which for some reason no one in the movie did, was the way it was like, oh my God, Thomas Wayne was evil. He ordered a hit on someone. And I'm sat there thinking, no, he didn't. He blatantly didn't. He probably asked for help and it went too far. And that's exactly what it was. Of course he didn't put a hit out on someone. That's ridiculous.
I was a little... I don't... it could be that Thomas Wayne was just an idiot.
I think he's an idiot, yeah.
Because it was like, I want this guy silenced. I'll go to Carmine Falcone. Carmine the Roman Falcone. and be like, yeah, he'll take care of it for you, but I'm sure in a very polite manner. It's like, what did you think he was going to do, you idiot?
He must have said to him, now, Carmine, no killing. Sure, anything you want.
This is when that father Ted's like, oh, you like, I meant take care of him as in take care of him. I think you interpret it in a very Al Pacino way. But so I was a bit like, it could be that Thomas Wayne's just adult, and he just didn't realize that. Like, of course he's gonna kill him.
Well, I liked the revelation though, because at first I was like, yeah, okay, well, why did he kill him though? That's a bit weird. And then it reveals the reasoning, which is it's kind of obvious, and I'm surprised I didn't think of it. It's like, well, if he kills him, then he's got something on Thomas Wayne. Like, everyone knows Carmine is a dodgy guy, but now he's linked to Thomas Wayne. It's like, oh well, if I get caught, I can point the finger. Thomas Wayne made me do it. You know, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, he's actually got something on him there. And he's probably got a recording of their conversation.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, for sure. Probably has his own contact. Maybe that's why he's wearing the sunglasses the whole time. He has a little camera and microphone in there. I will say as well, two potential comic links. During that whole thing, they talk about that reporter, and he's called Edward Elliot. And at one point, they said, during Riddler's presentation about it, he goes like, and he wanted him hushed, and he puts up the word hush, and I'm like, because Hush is Thomas Elliot in the comics, so I was like, but the same, I think it might just be a little nod, like they're not going to go like he's going to come back as Hush.
That's the sequel.
It's just that the Riddler's very integral to the Hush storyline, and the whole Hush, his head wrapped in bandages, that's his whole disguise, and the Riddler wrapping people's head in duct tape. Kind of like, I think it's just a little, like, it's a connective tissue that's kind of like, it's a cute little nod if you get it, but they're not going to outright make it a thing. The other one was, they keep talking about Maroni.
Yeah.
And they've already taken him down. So I was kind of like, this is year 2 Batman. Has Two-Face already happened? Like, they don't mention it. There's a new Jill Coulson. Yeah. Peter Sarsgaard, he's the DA. But Harvey Dent might have already been and gone.
That's an excellent point, because I was thinking, well, who's this DA? Like, he's not Harvey. Why isn't it Harvey? And that, yeah.
I was kind of, because it did in Batman Begins, too. There was another random DA, and he just got killed, so they could make way for Harvey Dent. So I was like, is it going to be the same deal? But like, no, they never... The fact that Maroni's already been put down is like, that seems like maybe in the sequel, you'll have Two-Face will be out of Arkham or something. And then you can be like, oh, it's Al Pacino as Maroni or something like that. The fact they never showed any pictures of them, they're like, we might get a guy.
Yeah. You could always bring it back. You can always bring. I mean, you can always bring the Riddler back if you need to. That's the beauty of the way it ended. And of course, there's a hint of another character in the jail cells.
Yeah. So that was one we talked about actually in our. In the Gotham Beats coverage of Dark Victory, I believe. We talked about Barry Keoghan, who was supposed... We were saying, finally he's been cast as Stan Merkel. Then for a while, I thought that cop who like kind of hates Batman but loves Bruce Wayne. But I think he turned out his name was like, just some random name. I thought that was Stan Merkel. It turns out there's no Merkel in this movie at all. After we talked about so much in Dark Victory, didn't make the cut at all. But I think we did allude to the idea that like rumors are that Barry Keoghan is in it and he might be playing the Joker, and that's exactly what it seems to have been.
I loved their conversation. But they can't see each other; they're in different cells. I really liked their conversation. The only thing wasn't too sold on the laugh.
Well,
it was a bit generic. It was just like, oh, he's just laughing. Whereas the Riddler laughed along with him, and he had a better laugh.
I don't know, man. It's gonna be. They try to top that Mark Hamill laugh, or Heath Ledger gets one real ripping one in The Dark Knight.
True.
It's so iconic of that one. It was in the trailer of that reel when he's getting beaten up and he has that really kind of wheezy like his real thing comes out of him.
Yeah, but now
that's so good. It's like, well, everything's gonna be, nothing's gonna live up to that.
You're forgetting the best laugh of all.
Oh God. See, I didn't mind his laugh. Because it wasn't the Jared. It didn't feel as like calculated and very like I have created a Joker laugh. It felt like, well, he's just a creep who has a weird laugh.
But this just felt like I get that and I agree, but this felt a bit too normal. It was just like me laughing. You know, it didn't feel particularly like unhinged or anything.
The little hints they got, though. Again, I should preface this. I still stand by my please no Joker for a long time. So I was kind of like, oh, did you not have had like any other character?
Because it does. They might not, but it did feel like, oh, that's the villain next time then.
Yeah. It's called, it was great in Batman Begins. You got that Joker card at the end, but that was because you hadn't seen the guy in 20 years.
Yeah.
So it was like, yes, please. But this is like, no. Mm-mm. And I think actually Matt Reeves has spoken since it's come out going, it's just an Easter egg. There's no like plan.
Oh, that's fine.
To be that. But I like you see the little bits of his hair. Looks very like, it looks more like the Joker in the comics. Mm-hmm. The hair rather than the Ledger Joaquin Phoenix mane. Or Jack Nicholson's glorious receded Buffon.
It is nice to have I think we need a Joker with a bit of style again. I mean, Nicholson had style, but it was Jack Nicholson's style. Because the Joker in the comics always is he's quite fancy. It's like punk fancy.
Well, I really love the Ledger suit.
Yeah,
like I think that's amazing.
I love it, but it's not fancy though.
Yeah, although, as he says in the movie, a suit wasn't cheap. You want to know, you bought it to Maroni, actually, at that point.
But then he doesn't look after it, does he?
Well, that's his thing, yeah. But, the thing is, like, if they do go out, like, we are doing the Joker, I will be all over the costuming notes, because that was one of my beefs with Joaquin Phoenix Joker, was like, I guess it's a red suit in reference to the King of Comedy. He's got no fancy socks. He's got no fancy shoes.
I liked it. Like, it looked good. But, yeah, you could have gone even further with it, I guess.
If I saw a guy out dressed in it, I'd be like, that's a cool outfit.
Yeah.
But for my Joker, I was like, those Heath Ledger socks, those are awesome socks, man. Why can you do that?
Exactly. Like, just put some fancy socks on that outfit. Instant improvement.
Yeah, well, 100%. But maybe because, like, Arthur Fleck can't afford anything beyond basic white socks.
You could steal them.
I don't know, how do you afford that suit? That's one question. But it's been a while since I've seen the movie. Maybe he did steal it. I can't remember.
I haven't seen it in a while. You could just have a scene where he's going around like thrift stores, picking up things, and slowly building the Joker.
I think that's how Heath Ledger put together his costume. Was going through charity shops and been like, yep, this and that and this.
It's the best way to dress.
But yeah, there seems to be, like, you couldn't really see his face, but I've seen chatter of people saying, like, yeah, it looks like he's got a big scar going up his cheek.
Yeah.
Or it could be, like, chemical burns or something. It's like, I couldn't make him out in my screening, but I'm sure once it goes to streaming, that's going to be screenshotted and friggin' contrasted.
Increase the brightness, yeah.
You're going to get a very intricate look at what Barry Keoghan actually looks like as a mystery Arkham patient or whatever they're currently calling it.
Yeah, I could barely see his face. And at first I was, because I'd seen people talk about it, so I thought, oh, is it just like, am I just in a badly done theatre? No, I don't think that was the case. I did see it, actually. It wasn't quite the screen I thought it was, Niall. It wasn't the massive screen. It was huge, but the massive screen at the Odeon is separate. This is Screen X.
Oh,
right.
This is Screen.
Yeah,
you're really selling.
And this podcast is sponsored by ScreenX Technology. No, I've never seen a ScreenX movie. Right? It's basically like the image is there's more. I think it's like the IMAX basically, but what they do is it projects it up the walls. But not all the time, right? Because that'd be weird. But like, when the car crashes and there's fire everywhere, the fire is going up the walls of the cinema.
Oh, okay.
You're like surrounded by stuff. It's like, whoa, what the? And you see people coming from off screen before they're meant to. It's because I think it's like the IMAX frame. They just sort of make it a bit different. It was cool. It was good.
We could have just permanently had a boom mic on the roof. It's like, too far.
Yeah,
too far.
Yeah, it turns out you're seeing things you're not meant to see.
You just see like a guy with a donut stand behind the set.
No, I don't know how they do it. Again, I'm assuming it's just the bigger IMAX sort of image that they use there. But it was cool. It worked really well. It didn't seem to have any negative points. Because I don't normally like gimmicks. Like that was that 4DX where the seat shakes and it's like, no, that might be fun for like a Fast and Furious or something, but I don't want to watch Batman like that.
Yeah, it's But you think you saw? So you got more. actually got more detailing on the Joker face. Then,
Well,
or?
that's what made me think like maybe this technology has kind of made the image a bit different or something. Like maybe it's a bit darker than it's supposed to be. But no, if you're saying you couldn't really see it, then good, because I couldn't. Like I could see his hair and his eye. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And believe me, I was looking because
Yeah,
I'm sure I saw people talking about his mouth.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to be like, oh, there's one big hideous scar going up the side of his like whole head, and I'm like, I didn't see that at all. But I mean, listeners, if you saw something, then by all means, put it in the listeners' cave. Actually, there's a specific spoiler thread.
Yes.
For respect purposes, and then once it's out to streaming, just go ahead and do whatever you want.
Yeah, I'd suggest keep the chat, the spoiler chat in there for now, for a good maybe till streaming, because it's not going to be long, isn't it? Like a month or 2 months? They're putting it on streaming.
46 days, so sometime late April, I believe, is going to be out. I'm thinking, even knowing that, I'm like, I think I might go see it in the cinema again.
Well, I'm tempted because I get in free. I've got my pass, so why not? And there was barely. I was worried about going on a Saturday afternoon, but I think because of where that cinema is, it's in Speke. I know the listeners probably won't know where that is, but it's not like in the centre of Liverpool. So there was only 15 people.
Oh, nice.
Roughly. I mean, I didn't sit and count every single person, but it was pretty dead.
You're counting the wigs, counting the people.
Every movie I've been to see there in the daytime, even if it's the weekend, hardly anyone. Ghostbusters, there's like 5 people or something.
I was surprised. Mine was like pretty full, and this was 10 a.m.
Oof.
The people were showing up for this.
But that was in town, wasn't it?
Yeah. So maybe that was more. But again, every time I go to something, I always go when I think no one's going to be there, and it turns out there's always people there. People with the same idea as me, probably.
Well, you've got to come with me to speak then, because it's a bit out of the way. Got to hop on the bus, but it's nice. And the seats are so comfortable. Oh. I didn't feel like this was a long movie. You said that to me, and I was the same.
Yeah.
It didn't feel that long, and I only needed the toilet in the last 20 minutes.
I think I was made because I was so like, you don't have to go to the toilet. I was really emphasizing myself. So I think I squeezed one out before going in, and then the whole time I was like, no, I'm fine.
But I normally need to go every 20 minutes. And I only needed to go in the last 20 minutes. So, but I did try
purposely not drinking much as well. But like, no, I had little tiny sips of water in the morning.
Same. Like I bought a medium Pepsi instead of a large Pepsi. I normally get a large, but I was like, I'll get a medium. And I didn't touch it for the first. Well, I didn't touch it till the movie started, which is about half an hour after I sat down, because ads.
Oh god, yeah. It was weird though, because they played the Sonic 2 trailer.
What?
And I was like, oh, it's Jim Carrey before getting to see a movie about the Riddler. I was like, there's the older Riddler. He's here.
Oh, I didn't get that trailer. Oh,
I really got it twice. They showed it 2 times.
The funny thing with mine was I waited till the end of the movie, even though it wasn't really worth it for that. No. Although it was funny, because when it comes up with the Riddler's... Apparently, if you go to the web address, there's now a countdown.
Yeah, I did see something about this. And I think Matt Reeves has said there's a deleted scene with potentially the Joker.
Oh, and it's going to go on the website.
But that's the theory at the minute. Is like, that's the countdown's going to be till maybe you'll get seeing that. But I don't know. We'll see.
Well, it was funny though, because when it popped up, like it did the web address, and then it did like a bunch of stuff really fast, and like loads of people just went, because quite a few people stuck around. They just went, "What the hell was that?" But immediately after that, the very next thing that comes on the screen, trailer for the Batman. I was like,
there was
okay.
there was we got one that was like a DC, the year of DC or something.
Well, it did then
like
go
Black
into
Adam.
that, yeah, because then The Rock came on with his, was it Black Adam, was it?
Yeah, they had something for the Flash, and Batgirl, I think, was mentioned as well. But
I just thought that was a bit weird.
Things, because we kind of. Oh no, it is, because you're just like, here's the movie you just watched. Like, okay.
And why wasn't that?
Once again, it was a bit like, you got us for like. We've been sitting for like 2.5 hours, nearly 3 hours. Why you show me this now? Like, just let people go already.
That should have been one of the trailers at the beginning. We didn't have that many movie trailers, actually. It was all just, random products. There wasn't that many films advertised. I'm trying to think what
I was getting antsy in the lead up, where I was getting to a point of like, just play the movie already. Just play it.
Well, I was thinking
like,
that because the longer you delay me, the more likely I'm going to need the toilet.
Yeah. So when the Sonic 2 trailer came out for the second time, I'm like, we did this! Get on with the movie!
Oh, God.
Only other little notes I can... Because I'm sure we probably will talk about this movie in greater detail.
Oh, we'll do a proper thing of it at some point, yeah, whether minute by minute or not.
Yeah. Should mention, I love the Riddler theme when that was released. And it was like, sounds really, like, it sounds almost universal horror / animated series. And it's just like, it's such a creepy, leitmotif. And then to realize it's Ave Maria. Like,
yeah.
It is just, like, oh, I can't believe I did not spot that. So, I thought made like the fact that it is Ave Maria. I love too when he's interrogating the Riddler and he just wants to stop talking, so he just starts singing Ave Maria, and then it's all linked back to the choir that he was in when the Waynes broke their promises. One thing I have seen, and you knew the internet is just rife with this. They were trying to find some way to complain about it being woke. I was like, Batman gone woke, and some people were saying, like, if you look at it, all the good guys are people of color and all the bad people are white. And it's
Robert
like,
Pattinson.
Yeah, Batman and Alfred are white people. Batman's the main freaking character. And also, it's like the Riddler's the main villain. And he's like, yeah, but he's kind of like a folk hero as well. Like, it's a real kind of like, you understand and sympathize with him in a weird way. So it's like, it's not like he's proper boo-hiss like, he is boo-hiss bad guy because he's trying to kill people in the end, basically, but his whole thing is like, yeah, he's been screwed over by the system.
Well, it's a bit like the Joker again, as in the Joaquin Phoenix one.
Oh, very much so, yeah.
Society has kind of made him the way, it's messed him up, which doesn't excuse him by any means, but it's everything around him that's so bad. It's sort of created this monster. And it's the failure of what do they keep calling it? The Renewal Project.
Other thing mentioned, I like little nods again, like you're doing it. We are not so different, you and I. That old biscuit where I mentioned, like, Riddler when he first appears, a bit like Batman standing in the shadows.
Yeah.
The fact Bruce's voiceover is all him scribbling in journals.
Oh, I loved that.
Then,
was it the Gotham Project he called the journal?
Yeah. And then when they get to the Riddler's apartment, he's got loads of journals. Just so him and Batman. We are not so different, you and I. That scene, though, of course, is directly taken from Seven. That's the John Doe's journal entry where he like throws up at a guy at a bus stop or something. I think it was and I couldn't stop laughing. But I remember because on the DVD of Seven, you can go into the journal. Somebody had to sit and freaking handwrite.
Oh, wow,
gibberish. Really? And it's all in character and stuff, but that was the one bit that I was like, okay, take the Seven aesthetic, and even like the way the lies are written up on the walls, like that's from Seven.
Yeah.
Even the little forensics detail and thumbprints and stuff, like that's from Seven. But yeah, the one bit where it was really like, come on, man, was like, yeah, the journals is like that's you might as well just take in the journal props. Actually, our guest on the show last season, Anna Bagitska, who's massive, her podcast is the Final Girls, is all about horror movies. She was like, yeah, so much so they might as well just use the same props from Seven.
I would have no problem with it either, though. That's the thing. I know that might be a bad thing to say, but Seven with Batman, great. I think we got here the Batman movie that I've been like. Everyone knows I like my silly campy Batman. Obviously, I'm a big defender of Batman and Robin. But my other type of Batman is the dark, twisted, demented kind of thing. And I finally got it. I was calling for this Riddler back in season 1.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I wanted. It's the Zodiac. He's even got a cipher.
The only thing, it wasn't a disappointment at the end, because I loved the ending, much like the kind of Dark Knight sort of wrong foots you into, like, the ending of that movie actually turns out to be like a very intimate little thing between 3 guys rather than like a big bombastic thing. Maybe because, again, I was expecting it to feel like it was going to be 3 hours. So when the climax happened, I didn't think that was going to be the end.
Yeah,
I thought there was going to be more.
Yeah.
I thought the big thing at the end is like, oh, so he comes out and takes out all these Riddler drones, which again is kind of like the Batman copycats in The Dark Knight as well, but kind of a different spin on it. But they're also influenced by Batman because he does the "Who are you? I'm vengeance" and all that. Again, because I know as well that Riddler flooding the city is from Zero Year, and that Zero Year is like one of the best ever, Batman comics. And the climax of Zero Year is so good. It's so cinematic that I assumed, the climax of this movie is going to be like pretty much beat for beat the climax.
And it's
Zero
not.
Year. And most of Zero Year takes place in the aftermath of the flood, when Gotham's become like a jungle, basically, and everyone's under the Riddler's control. Like everyone's trying to escape the city, and they'll come up, and if you can pose him a riddle he can't solve, then maybe he'll let the city go, and all this sort of stuff.
Maybe.
And there's a whole big thing where they're gonna bomb the government. They're gonna bomb the city for some. I can't remember exactly why. And there's a whole really intense bit where Batman gets in the Riddler's hideout. And he's like, probably, he's not even got a cape. He's like, he's been living rough for like a year, basically. He's just, broken down Batsuit, just the mask, pretty much. And he keeps, like, Riddler's got him in a kind of laser sights, entrapment kind of, entrapment lasers where he can only take a step forward at a time. So he's asking Batman rapid fire riddles.
Ooh.
Until eventually you find out that Gordon's actually, he's save the day off screen, and Batman knows that, and then he just starts walking towards Riddler and just grabs him, and it's a whole it's such a good climax.
Yeah, sounds
so
great.
I was kind of sitting waiting for that. So then to find out, like, no, the Riddler has just been arrested, and the flood is the climax. And now it's like, well, I guess next movie is like No Man's Land then, I guess. But I was kind of like, I thought there was going to be more than this. And then what was just like the actual end point is him realizing he needs to be more of a hero rather than, creature of vengeance.
Creature of the night.
Exactly. That was like, that is a good ending. I was expecting to go in for, maybe next time I watch it, knowing what's coming, I'll be more like, not that I was disappointed. I was just more like, that's over? Oh, okay. Like, I was waiting for my 0 year adaptation.
Well,
it didn't quite get there. But...
yeah, you don't want it to be exact, though, do you? Because then you know exactly what's coming.
Although the end line of the whole movie is, the end line of 0 Year is Julie Madison potentially hooking up with Bruce, and Bruce been like, she comes to the door, and Alfred's like, Bruce, there's a young lady for you here, master. And Bruce is like, well, Alfred, I'm not gonna stop being Batman, but like, you do whatever you think's right. And then Alfred has this vision of him ushering Julie in, and like her and Bruce having this wonderful life and children together and stuff. And Bruce saying, like, thank you, Alfred, at the end and stuff. And then he realizes, like, no, that's never going to happen. And he comes out, and Julie's like, oh, Alfred, is he busy tonight? And he's like, I'm afraid he's spoken for.
Oh.
And the end line of this is Selena going, you're spoken for. And it's like, that's from 0 Year.
Yeah. That's cool.
Love that ending, too, where it's like very... They're parting ways on the motorbikes, but they go for, it was almost like a Fast and Furious.
Yeah, I was going to say, it felt like the final, what's his character's name? The final time you see him.
Brian. Yeah.
Brian. Yeah.
You put in a long time to see you. We're making the memes for Vengeance posting here already. Let's go through the episode again.
Let's get that one.
Got so far?
Niall, quickly get on Photoshop after this recording. I need to see that. That was really cool, though. And I love the way, like, she never realizes who he is, because her big thing is basically like, help me. It's a bit like the Riddler. Help me take down these jerks like Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. It seemed like at the end where I think she mentioned about, like, let's go get into trouble, take down some big time CEOs or something.
Yeah.
I was like, is this a kind of little Max Shrek nod as well? Where like, well, that's what she was all about in Returns, I'm wondering. She'll definitely be back, but I wonder if she'll come back as like a member of high society next time, that she's managed to hornswoggle her way up, and then Bruce Wayne will be like, I know this lady. This isn't like, she'll come in like, oh, this is some alias. And
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
That ain't who that lady is.
At a party.
Yeah.
And he'll pull her aside. What are you doing here?
And then she'll do that. There's a storm coming, Mr. Wayne. And I'll be like, no, back out. Get out of there.
Oh, the only other thing I've got is that something I enjoyed overall was that I believe, maybe I'm wrong, but this is one of the only Batman movies in a long time where I would say the main character is Batman.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the other ones, like The Dark Knight might be amazing, but it's a Joker movie. I'm not watching it for Batman.
Yeah, so if it's not a Joker movie, then it's a Harvey Dent movie.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, like, third in line. Even it's more of a Gordon movie than it is for a Batman movie. But yeah, probably since... Actually, no, Dark Knight Rises is kind of like... It's more firmly a Batman movie, I guess.
But again, I don't ever... No, I'm not knocking Christian Bale, but I never watch them movies for Batman. I watch them movies for the villain.
Yeah, Bale was weird in that, like, he was good, but he was a bit bland. Like, he didn't have any of the edge of Keaton.
Yeah.
And this Batman's all edge.
Yeah.
He's like, he is edgelord Batman. But yeah, at the end of it, you were like, yeah, I will watch more of this guy. I don't care who the villain is next. I want more of this Batman because I love this portrayal so much.
It's refreshing because you could even, as much as we love Keaton, you could even argue that, once you get to Returns, it's not about Batman.
No. There's a good arc for Batman in that story, but it's sort of outshone by the Penguin of it all and the Catwoman of it all. Only other note I had, but I was slightly like, after us giving out so much stink about it last season, it's Edward Nashton this time. And I was pouring through, trying to analyze every frame as it went past to see if there was going to be an Edward Nigma somewhere. Like,
I thought that because he had those fake IDs and things.
Yeah, you thought the thing one of them was said friggin' Parker Posey or something. But I was expecting it to be Edward Nigma. Even when they're showing you at the end when he's talking to his little Reddit group or whatever.
Yep.
I was expecting his username to at least be Mr. Enigma or something.
That would have been great. That would have been super cool. Yeah.
But no, they didn't do it at all. It's like, okay, Edward Nigma's a stupid name, but come on, you could use it as an online handle or something.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Everyone's online name's stupid. That would be fine.
Yeah. Oh no, so yeah, much. That was the only. Feel bad to end on a sour note, but I was like, oh, come on, man.
Okay, well let me say one good thing that I've only just thought of then. Bisexual Catwoman.
Oh yeah,
she's bi.
And I think they've not even in the lead up. I think they were saying Zoe Kravitz posited it to Matt Reeves that she might be bisexual and in a relationship with this lady, and Matt was like, oh well, maybe I guess if you want it to be that way. And when you watch the movie, it's just like, no, that is flat out her girlfriend.
Straight up.
There's no ifs ands, but she is flat out. They are a couple living together. That's the story.
They're not just friends. I think she actually says something, if I remember, to fully nail it home. They've had a relationship of some description.
Yeah.
So that's a positive. That's a that's a step.
And also just the last thing with the Catwoman, she of course gets to scratch Falcone's face exactly like in The Long Halloween,
which is just desserts there because he's when he strangles people, it's horrifying. oh no, it felt so. I was creeped out the way he strangles people so calmly.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure. I probably will realize after, we didn't talk about this, that, or the other. But
well, this is just initial thoughts. Yeah, it's our initial thoughts on a 3-hour movie, and you're getting an hour and 40 minutes nearly of content. I'm sure we could talk for another 5 billion hours, but we'll
touch
on it.
In the lead up when they said there was going to be 2 hours 47. I was like, could this be the first Bat-Minute review where the review isn't longer than the movie? And it looks like, no, they beat us. They actually got us.
Well, again, that's because this isn't our, it's not a full review. We haven't sat and made notes and thought about all the themes. I've had less than a day. You've had less than 2 days to mull this over.
Yeah. They could go in with look, we can tell you about the guy who played Thomas Wayne in that one scene. Let's talk about him for a little bit. It's no, I don't know who that guy was.
Screw him. Nobody needs to know. Although weirdly, a lot of stuff about him in the plot. It's all about him and Arkham and whatnot. So.
Oh yeah, they said they never showed the pearls. They never showed the shooting.
Nope.
But it was very much the ghost of Thomas Wayne looms large over Bruce.
That's how you keep him in the story without just doing the shooting again. Yeah. Loved it. Loved the whole movie. If you haven't seen it, why have you listened to this? We warned you.
Yeah.
We warned you.
We sat through this whole review, but I'm like, oh, I guess I'll go see that now. I was like, you should have watched it already.
Then again, maybe someone's on the fence and thinks that our opinions might sway them into actually watching it, and they don't care about spoilers, I guess.
Yeah, well,
Well,
okay.
this is going to be released for our Patreon listeners first, but it is going to be released free, so don't shout at us when we release it for free. Like, I paid for that.
Yeah.
It's
the idea
just a
is
bonus.
we're trying to get it once when it comes out, out in the cinemas, and then we'll release it again when it comes out after this 46-day window. When more people might be watching it then, because you can watch it in the house. So,
And our opinions will have changed by then. Like, oh, this movie's terrible.
it's like, that man talking on that's not even me anymore. Like, I'm a different guy now.
It could happen. You never know. Nah, it's not going to happen. This movie's amazing. And I'll controversially say, Niall, as my parting shot, possibly my favourite Batman movie.
Oh,
But I've only seen it once, so I don't want to say that for sure. I'm not nailing that down yet. I mean,
I'll say it'd be in the top 3 for me, but it's like I'm taking in Mask of the Phantasm as well.
well, that's the thing. I'm not including that, obviously. But
Yeah.
I can't say it's better than Returns yet because I've got so much history with that as well.
It's frustrating, and it's like, obviously like the '89 is always going to have like just a place in my heart. The Dark Knight, to me, it doesn't have the same. After walking out of The Dark Knight, it was just like, and that was such a heavily anticipated movie that it actually delivered on every level. That was really like, that was phenomenal. I don't know how you're ever going to do that again. This, I can see it is working that way for some people, where they're like, this is the greatest film I've ever seen and stuff. For me, I'm like, it's great. I'm very, very happy with it, but I still do have that bit like, well, we've had a lot of Batman recently, right?
Plus, you're old now, jaded.
Yeah, spent. Plus, too, like, people keep forgetting the Lego Batman movie, like, which was almost felt like that could have been the end of all Batman movies. Where it's
Never
just
make
like,
another one.
Yeah, it's just like, this is everything you need to say about a Batman now in this one movie. And that even had Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman in it. Like, before she was in this movie,
Oh, true.
she only appears, like, does a little, like, meow, meow, kind of, like, jokey bit, but it's like, no, she's in there as Catwoman. And it's coming off all that, so I'm like, well, like, but the same, this is still, not to take away from it at all, though, it still is a terrific, terrific piece of work. And, thankfully we're now in a honeymoon period where I've not seen many negative things online about it. I'm certain there will be.
No, and the people I've seen be negative, like a couple of reviewers that we know and things, it's always been, it's not unjust negativity. It's like, okay, that's your opinion, that's fine. It's not just hating for the sake of hating. It's a proper opinion, a studied opinion, one you can respect.
I've seen Maria Lewis, who massive Batman Forever fan.
Mm-hmm.
She retweeted her friend, who was the guy. I think he did Zodiac Minute and stuff.
Yeah,
he was that guy who did One Heat Minute, and then went on to do Zodiac, I believe. And he was scathing about it.
Oh,
but some of his comments were all like, it's kind of a half adaptation of Zero Year. It's like, that's what comic adaptations are like. They just take bits and bobs from here, there, and everywhere.
They very rarely just do them straight.
Yeah, it's like what you wanted to literally be. I guess maybe people might be like, didn't you just say you wanted it to be a literal adaptation of the end of Zero Year? Kinda, yeah, but like his complaint being, it's like sort of, it's just taking ideas from that. And it's like, that's what comic adaptations are. They just take ideas from.
Yeah.
They took ideas from like Pattinson himself has said, like, oh yeah, there's a lot of his interpretation is filtered through Darwin Cook's Batman ego, and it's like, you just take an idea. That's how you do these things. So I think most of the people though Anna Baguette says she liked it, too derivative of 7. Clarice Lockery loved it, but thought it was like, yes, it's good. It's like a good film noir. That's my, that was her opinion. So.
I've seen very few people just be like, this is the worst. I actually haven't seen anyone say this is terrible. So I hope that maintains, but I'm sure it won't because contrarians.
Oh yeah. It was a long time with The Dark Knight, but eventually you got people coming out going, nah.
And it's fine to not like a movie, but sometimes people are like, for instance, when IMDb, let you have the message boards and things and the ratings and all that that were visible. You'd always see, actually no, they still let you have the reviews, don't they? You'll get people with Star Wars, 10 out of 10. Cool. I agree. And then you get people going 1 out of 10. And you're like, no, come on. Even if you don't like Star Wars, it's not a 1 out of 10. I'm sorry. That's the worst rating you can give a film. And you're giving it to Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't like, you can still give it a 5. It's still, like, Jesus.
I'm pretty sure if you go down to if you just Google the Batman, you'll see at the side of Google now you get little star ratings.
Yeah.
And I think there are a bunch under 1. So
Again, even if you don't like this movie, it's not a 1 star. I don't care what planet you're from.
I mean, this is realistic. You gotta bump it up at least for some of the performances.
Yeah.
Come on,
Like, there's movies I don't like, but there's good things in them. But whatever. Positivity, people. Loads of good reviews out there. Read those as well, even when you've seen the movie, because I love to read reviews. This is going to sound like I'm in an echo chamber. Reviews that are positive, about a movie I enjoyed, because because they reinforce certain things that you were thinking but maybe weren't sure on, and they might have a different thing that they particularly like that you didn't sort of pick up on. Whereas if they're just scathing out of nowhere, it's like, well, what am I getting out of this? It's not helping me form a new opinion or anything.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy to wrap it up at that.
Yes,
though.
We'll head off into the dark
wrap
night.
it up like a deceased person's head with duct tape.
Yes, before the rats chew our faces off, we will depart. I think they've been nibbling at my nose as we speak. We will see you again soon for, technically, I suppose this is a Gotham Beat episode, but it's going to be released for free. So we'll see you for more wonderful Patreon. We'll see you for more wonderful freebies. Gotham Beat will be back, baby.